your fitness business podcast snapshot. Top 5 expenses where we could save money, advice on keeping the budget on track, how do we involve our team in cost savings activities. All of that and more coming up in today's show. You're listening to the fitness industry's leading fitness business podcast for owners and managers, where each week we provide an educational platform for our listeners. Our guests come from all around the world to share their expert advice, tips, and knowledge with you, the FBP family. This month's interviews are brought to you by Tribe Team Training. Welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast. I am your host, Dory Nugent. If you are new to the podcast, let me be the first one to say, welcome to the family. Today's episode is number 328, and Josh Fox, the CEO and founder of Bottom Line Concepts, is our guest. But before we start, here is a message from our podcast partner, Tribe Team Training.
Are you interested in increasing your center's income and your trainer's income from small group training? Tribe Team Training is the new way to get more members engaged in small group training and paying extra. Click the Tribe Team Training link in the show notes or go to tribeteamtraining.com.au/podcast for your free formula to see how much income you can make from small group training.
Josh Fox is our guest today. He is the CEO and founder of Bottom Line Concepts, which is a cost reduction consulting firm that is incentivized by saving you money, not by selling you replacement products. We are super fortunate here at the podcast to have Josh join us today and share tips and industry secrets on how to save money during these challenging times. Please welcome Josh to the show. Welcome, Josh Fox, CEO and founder of Bottom Line Savings, to the show today. The Fitness Business Podcast family is super excited to have you here today. I know that you're going to teach us all how to save a few dollars going into 2021. So, Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. So, since this is your first time on the podcast, why don't you tell all of us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you for giving me that opportunity. So it's really nice to meet the listeners all over the world. My name is Josh Fox. I've had the pleasure and honor of running this company, Bottom Line Savings, since 2009. And for the, listeners that have been around for a little bit, I think a lot of people may remember the downfall of '08. We had a very similar situation in our country where things fell apart financially. It was about the mortgage meltdown back then. Now it's about a virus. But the results were the same, which were massive layoffs and companies filing bankruptcy and going out of business. And it just came to me back then that I wanted to start a company that was saving businesses money. All I would see was tons of articles and TV shows where, massive layoffs. And I hate to quote Shark Tank. It's definitely one of my favorite shows, but I thought there had to be a better way than just simply firing your employees. And I said, what a great time to start a business saving companies money. People today, fast forward to 2020, people say, wow, what a brilliant business idea, saving companies money. Are you a startup? And I laugh and I say, I was a startup the last time the world fell apart in '08. Now we're just an 11-year-old company that's done a really good job.
Josh, so tell us a little bit about how did you get started in the sense of what's your background? Are you a finance background? Are you an accountant? How did this all get started?
I had the interesting experience at the time. I used my life savings to go buy an apartment in New York City where I grew up. And I was given an opportunity in my 20s to run for board president. Mm-hmm. And when you run for president of your building, you're doing it on a volunteer basis. So you're not really, it's your job, but it's your volunteer job. And my job on a volunteer basis was to control the cost for 220 or so families that I was living with. And I just loved, negotiating contracts with the unions. I loved working with the utility companies and the banks and all the things it took to run this massive building. And I used to get standing ovations at our annual board meetings because in 8 years of running the building, we never had a common charge increase in the history of the building. And people loved the fact that they didn't have to pay more for their apartments. Mm-hmm. So I said, if I could do this for this big building, I really feel like I can do this for other people's companies. And away I went.
Great story. I like that. That's a really good story. So taking all of your knowledge, all of your experience, and you're going to talk today to our listeners about which primarily are club owners, operators, those folks that are looking at budgets, getting ready for the 2021 budget. You're going to kind of talk us through here some tips on how to possibly save some money. So with all of your experience, what do you see as the top 5 expenses where clubs could save a few dollars?
Well, I want to start by saying we have a massive, massive list of health and fitness brands that we've worked with. Mm-hmm. And it's everybody from the vitamin shops and GNC. So we've done the, retailers that sell the wonderful supplements and drinks. So we've done those types of businesses. Mm-hmm. We've done the actual clubs themselves. So we've done Equinox and Soul Cycle and New York Sports Clubs and Genesis and Crunch, truly the greatest brands when it comes to the clubs themselves. And so we have a ton of experience in the last decade plus helping health and fitness brands save money. Now, if you have a brick and mortar operation, right, you're not an online business, utilities is definitely one of those earliest categories where you should focus. Every location you have, you're paying an electric bill, you're paying a gas bill, you're paying a telephone bill, and you're paying an internet bill. So those 4 utilities are very big ones when it comes to running any health and fitness or retail brand. And let me state what seems to be obvious but maybe unobvious is that these utility companies that are run typically by governmental agencies, depending on the state that you operate in, they want the exact opposite. They want you to pay more, and you want the opposite of them. You want to pay less. So there's been a problem for hundreds of years that when you own and operate a business, your vendors want you to pay more, and those vendors want you to, you want to pay less, and the vendors want you to pay more. So we're that bridge, that gap in the middle that allows the corporation to really understand what the vendors are charging them. Okay. So number 1 would definitely be utilities. Okay. Number 2 would be credit card fees. Most of the membership fees or the money that's being paid in an online store or brick and mortar store is being paid by consumers on credit cards. And there is a huge cost, anywhere from probably 2.5% to 3.5% of your total sales that you're going to have to pay to the credit card companies. So a great place to focus is to look at your credit card fees every time you swipe. That would be number 2. Number 3, if you operate a business in multiple states, you definitely want to review your sales and use tax. So every time you buy something for your location, you're typically going to have to pay sales tax on it. Now, this is not the consumer side of the business. This is the corporate sales tax that you pay. So if you run a business headquartered in New York, but you have clubs in 30 states, how do your vendors really understand how much to charge you in sales tax? They don't. So the key is to go back and look at your old invoices and make sure that your vendors were charging you the right sales tax. That would be number 3. Number 4 would be payroll fees. If you outsource and you have thousands of employees on either on a W-2 or a 1099 basis, you would definitely want to look at the fees that your payroll company is charging you. And number 5, especially if you run an e-commerce type fitness business, if you have anything online, your shipping expenses is massive. So if you're shipping products to people's homes, you definitely want to look at typically your FedEx or UPS charges, as there's a huge opportunity to negotiate those contracts.
I love your list of 5. I absolutely love that list. Do you find that when you call and make that phone call, the person on the other end is willing to negotiate, or is it a little bit of a fight?
Not at all. I think the vendor would much rather get a call from someone like us or from the customer. talking about, negotiating the fees than an email that says they've been fired. Most vendors already built, 10, 20, 30, 40% margins into their pricing. So a lot of them are willing to come down 10 or 20% in lieu of losing the business.
Let's talk about our supplier vendors, the people that are supplying all of maybe our cleaning products, our little disinfectant wipes, things like that. How do we have the conversation with our suppliers?
Everything's about relationships in life. And I've always found, going back to my example with my family, that you get more with honey than you do vinegar. Mm. And if you were to approach your vendors in a very humble and caring way, as it's truly a partnership with the vendors that you're using, and let them know about the hardships that you're experiencing, and you're really trying to come back. And, if you come back strong, you're going to be ordering more products from your vendors. So your win is their win.
Yeah, through COVID, obviously, and all the clubs getting hit, there's been so many webinars and panel discussions. And I know that's one of the many pieces of advice that other club owners said that they've done very well with, and that's contacting their vendors, whether it be their locker room supplies or their sanitation supplies, and just have an honest conversation with them to see if they will lower any type of cost. And from what I hear, a lot of clubs have been very successful, but you have to ask in order to get anywhere.
So let me share another thought with you. So clubs really aren't about memberships per se in terms of making money. The clubs that make money, like truly make profit from their business, are the ones that have the right real estate deals in place. And the ones that are losing money typically have bad real estate deals in place. So the key in running any kind of retail type business is to make sure that the real estate deal that you have in place is good for your business. And if you're going to start somewhere, let's go focus on the big dollars, which is your rent, versus the small dollars, which is your Windex and Fantastic.
True. So let's talk about the budget. It's that time of year that so many clubs and, households as well, they're starting to plan their 2021 budget. And, we always say the budget's kind of like a guideline of, what to expect to spend on expenses. What's your advice on, you have that budget in place, things are running smoothly, and then all of a sudden there's a major repair or an unexpected wage comes up that blows our budget out of the water. How do we stick to our budget, or how do we get back to the budget so that hopefully we have a profitable maybe second, third, fourth quarter?
I would want to be under budget, especially these days. I love people that say, oh, I spent $1 million last year on this item, so it's okay to spend $1 million again. That's the wrong attitude. And I see that a lot even when we work with governmental agencies where it's like, hey, we spent $20 million building roads last year. It's okay to spend $20 million again building roads again this year. The key is to really work to get your budgets lower than last year, not to increase them. And so I think people are looking at this barometer, all the wrong way. They should be looking at, how do I reduce it, not how do I stay the same or increase it?
I think that's great advice. I used to do the budgets, not by far my favorite thing to do. And I have to admit, I think we basically kind of tried to look at the budget the year before and stick to the same plan. So I like your advice to say, hey, throw that rule out the book and try to get it down in 2021 than it was for 2020. So I like that. That's great advice.
The other thing is that, everyone's kind of set in their ways, but, if you own 50 clubs, I know it's hard to do that, but you might just want to decide, once and for all to kind of like cut the cord on a certain number of your locations that are underperforming and you have bad real estate deals and are not making money. It's really time to close those stores and to really focus on the ones that have an opportunity to come out of this thing. I'd rather have 30 great stores than 50 okay stores.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said sometimes you just get in a habit with the budget, and it's definitely a time that you need to break some of those habits and make some changes for the better. So I agree with you on that one.
The problem is the American way is big, 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 big. So it's like when you talk to someone who owns a fitness business, they're always like, how many clubs do you have? How many subscriptions do you have? How many members do you have? And people always want to give those big numbers, but if they're not good numbers, there's bad numbers and good numbers, and bad numbers don't mean big numbers. They could be big numbers and bad, and they could be big numbers and good.
Yeah, you're right about that. What, as a business owner or an operator, can I do, or how far can I look to my team and staff to also help the club to save money?
Well, this is where I love, picking out certain people and really giving them a stake in the success. Our business is predicated on the more that we save our clients, the more that we make. If you take your top 5 or 10 executives and you really incentivize them to find savings and give them a piece of it, I love that business model. That's how we've been operating for 11 and a half years. So, your store managers will be turning the lights off earlier. They'll be not wasting water. All the little things that people who are running those clubs can do to save money. If you can give them targets to hit and incentive bonuses to hit them, they're going to do those little things. Like I said, turn the water off, turn the lights off, not waste. When you're making a protein shake, put the right amount of protein powder. Don't let it fall on the floor.
Great advice on looking to your team to save money. Absolutely. They definitely, each department head can take on the action of looking to their teams and figuring out how they can save money. So I like that one a lot. Let's kind of keep moving forward. And, there's been a little bit of talk, especially with the election coming up, about a recession. And sometimes, the media doesn't help at all in instilling any calmness. A lot of times, they're instilling a little bit of fear, making you a little nervous. So what would you say when you're watching the news and the media keeps talking about a recession and you are the owner or the manager of a club?
I mean, I love, positive affirmations, like if you stay positive, it will be positive around you. And if you stay negative, it will be negative around you. So as the leader owner of your company, it's super, super important to instill positivity because people are going to see that. And whether it's, I love like stickies all over the place that remind you of all the positive things. I mean, we do something at my company every Friday called Positive Focus, and we will reply all to an email with a large group telling the 5 to 25 different things each week that happen to the whole group. And then we can go back and look at those from week to week. And it's all about protecting your confidence. If your confidence is high, you can do anything. And if your confidence is low, you're going to have a big chance of failure. So protecting your confidence through positive focus and affirmations has been something that I have found has worked incredibly well.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. Being a leader, it's so important to be positive because I always felt that your team looks to you and they're going to read you. And if you're the leader and you're nervous and a little panicky, I think that's going to make them feel the same exact way. So I absolutely love that. I just had on a guest a couple weeks ago on an episode. His name's Alan Leach, and he is the big sales director for the Westwood clubs in Ireland. And I talked to him about sales going forward for 2021. And his demeanor and his positivity and his reinforcement, I even felt like I was like, yeah, like you have to be fired up, just being positive and kind of really excited to look forward to 2021, not looking at it as gloom and doom.
I mean, listen, the lifeblood of a business is your customers. And I'll never forget, there was an interview I saw with Mark Cuban when he had sold his company when he was in his 20s for billions of dollars. And his quote, and I'll never forget it, was, if you don't have customers, you don't have a business. So this is the ultimate time to make sure that your customers are getting the absolute best customer service they've ever gotten. Because when this thing reopens, they're going to have 100 different options on where they can put their business, and they're going to go where they're treated the best. It's like the Cheers show. Everybody knows. You want to go where everybody knows your name. Like you want to walk into a club where they know who you are, they treat you well, and you feel like you're at home.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
Josh, what are your 3 tips for saving money going forward in 2021 and beyond?
There's a lot of them that I could think of, but the first one that comes to mind for sure is to really build great relationships with your vendors. And the better the relationship you have with them, I think the more likely they are to really help you with expense reduction. as you build your relationship with them going forward. Secondly, I think it's all about not being wasteful. I think when you look at these clubs, there's so many opportunities to be wasteful. And I think we all need to be mindful instead of wasteful as we go forward with the products and services that are being used at these clubs. And I love that it can be done in a green environment. Like we don't have to wash all the towels a million times per se. It's all about being green and being resourceful and mindful and not being wasteful would be number two. And number three, it's a great opportunity to go back and audit all of the stuff that you've done the last 3 years. Most people don't realize that if you go back and review old invoices and old processes, that there could be a great opportunity to recover money that you've spent, that you can get some of it back.
Keep Me, smarter member retention. KeepMe.ai.
Let's get back to the show, shall we? Well, Josh, we are super, super lucky to have found you and that you agreed to come on the Fitness Business Podcast because, again, your information is just so important to all the club owners and operators, especially in these times in order for the clubs to survive. Financially, everybody's taking such a hit. So we're so glad to have you on the show today.
No, thank you. And listen, if anybody out there wants to talk to us or meet with us or really just have any kind of conversation about helping your business, feel free to reach out. My email is super easy. It's just my last name, Fox, F-O-X, @bottomlinesavings.com. Or our phone number is even easier. It's 212-668-1111, 212-668-1111. And listen, these are tough times, but I think the people that stay positive and buckle down are going to be the ones that come out of this thing stronger than ever. And if we all stick together and we act as a team, this is going to be a time we'll look back on and say, we got through it in a really awesome way.
See, you're using your own advice about positivity. That was so positive. I just absolutely I love it. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to save money, right? So I love the title of your company. I mean, that was brilliant, genius. But we will make sure, Josh, we put all of your contact information in our show notes so that our listeners can reach out to you, get in contact with you, if they have any additional questions or anything.
I forgot to tell you, I do work out typically 9 times a week, so I'm very passionate about fitness myself.
9 times a week?
Yeah, it'll be a yoga class and a tennis match, or it'll be a workout and, a bike ride. So I try to get in 2 a day where possible.
All right. What's your favorite thing to do?
I'm a big hot yoga fan.
Okay.
As I've gotten older, I think that really keeps me calm, and it's helped me to make better decisions in my business and not to have knee-jerk reactions.
Okay, I like that. And also, Josh, if the Fitness Business Podcast ever does like The Bachelor, are we allowed to put you on as one of the contestants?
I'd be first in line.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of young ladies out there that would be raising their hand to be on the show as well. So we'll have to set that up. That might be kind of fun in 2021. The Fitness Business Podcast Bachelor and Bachelorette. Well, Josh, thank you again for sharing all your information. It's so, so important in these times. So you have an awesome 2021 and a great holiday coming up. Fitness family, how many cost-saving ideas did you write down? I hope at least one. Well, a big thank you to Josh for coming on today's show to lend a helping hand to all the clubs, boutiques, and fitness studios trying to stay in the black this year. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we would ask that you would share it with a friend, or even better yet, share this episode on your social media platform. And now it's time for a message from our podcast partner, Team Rockstar Fit.
Team Rockstar Fit is an award-winning mastermind team that helps fit pros lead happy and balanced lives. Get mentoring and support. Learn how to grow your business online with Beachbody. You can apply for a free consultation today at teamrockstarfit.com.
Quickfire 5.
Hey, are you ready? Because it's time for Quick Fire 5 with next week's guest, Ben Ludwig. Ben Ludwig joins us today for our Quick Fire 5 questions. Ben is my guest for our next episode, which will be entitled The Power and Place of Role Play. Ben, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast. Are you ready for your 5 questions?
I am ready, Dory. Let's do it.
I love these. Can you tell? I start laughing right away. All right. Question number 1. Who inspires you in your life and why?
The person that inspires me the most, Dory, is actually my wife. I would not be able to do everything that I do, all the businesses that I'm involved in. There's no way I could do it without her. So she's my rock and she's my support system.
Excellent. My husband hates when you guys answer that way because then I will go out and tell him and then he feels like pressure if he's ever asked, you know.
The brownie points too, though, right? So, I mean, it's a win-win.
Okay, number 2. Why do you do what you do?
I do what I do, Dory, because I believe in people. I love seeing people see success through what they love to do. And that just gives me joy in what I do.
Perfect. Great answer. And if you were not doing what you were doing, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't involved in fitness, I would be a preacher. I love connecting with people. I love writing. I love speaking. So I would definitely be a preacher.
Okay, perfect. And number 4, what's one book, podcast, blog, or Facebook group that you would recommend and why?
One of the first books that I ever read that really had a big impact on my life was The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. Anyone that hasn't read it, I highly recommend it. I think there's just too many people that are searching for something that they end up never finding because they just don't have a purpose in life. So I highly recommend that one. Solid read.
I highly recommend it with you as well. I read it years ago and I'm in a different stage in my life. And I think it's a good book for me to put on my list to read again because, things change in your life and, we're in different places, but I highly recommend that one too. That is a great choice. Okay. And finally, question number 5, what will be one action item the FBP family will take away from your main interview next week?
The main thing that you're going to take away is how to implement role play into your business. I've been consulting for quite some time and I've been involved in multiple gym startups, and it seems to be the one thing that everyone knows they should do and no one knows how to do it. So that's going to be the big takeaway is, okay, I know it's important. So how do I put this into practice?
Well, it's a great topic and we can't wait to have you back next week. So FBP family, make sure you tune in next week when Ben Ludwig joins us for the power of role play. Please stay tuned as MX Metrics, our podcast partner, has a special message for all of us.
Member experience is more than just NPS. With MXM's Member Experience Toolkit, you build a unified view of the member experience, from purchase to onboarding to everyday usage and cancellation. Wire your entire organization with actionable feedback using MXN's Member Experience Toolkit. To find out more, go to mxmetrics.com. Hi everyone, Chantal here. Thank you for joining me for this week's throwback episode, when we take a little trip down memory lane and I share some of my all-time favorite episodes from the first 5 years of the show. This week's featured episode is show number 91, and my special guest was Luke Carlson. He's the founder and CEO of Discover Strength, and as it happens, 3 years after we recorded this interview, Discover Strength have launched their franchise opportunity, and they are now our newest podcast partner. So I thought this was a pretty fitting episode to do for our throwback show this week. So here's what we talked about during that interview. We spoke about the importance of having a clear core purpose and core values for your fitness business, why it's so important to understand what truly makes you different as a club, and he outlines an exercise to do before you do any marketing for your business. Also, we chat about what it means to promise and deliver 5-star customer service. It is a top episode and one of our all-time most downloaded. So if you haven't heard it yet, then now's the time. Take a listen today simply by clicking on the link in today's show notes, or go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and search for episode number 91. Happy listening.
Want to learn more about Josh Fox and Bottom Line Concepts? Please head on over to our show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, where all of the links and resources can be found. Next up, a special message from our founding partner, Active Management.
Hi FBP family, it's JT from Active Management, the founding partner of the Fitness Business Podcast. Thanks to the amazing technology at our fingertips, we can now work with clients all over the world. But right now, you can join the free online Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group of people just like you. Sure, I share weekly resources, but it's the power of the community that you will experience that will make this your go-to Facebook group. Remember, it's free, fun, and inspirational. Go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community.
What you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.